Hello and welcome. My name is Florian Wilk, and in today's video I want to give you a concise explanation of what it's all about, how you can set up a tax structure here in Cyprus in 2024, and how you can get from A to B in the easiest way possible. So if you're interested in the topic of emigrating to Cyprus or want to set up a company in Cyprus, then definitely stay tuned and watch the video all the way to the end. So I'll start with taking up residence because that's of course the absolutely crucial step. In order to become a tax resident here in Cyprus and benefit from the very extensive tax advantages, you naturally need to have a residence in the Republic of Cyprus. That means in the southern part of Cyprus, the Greek Cypriot part, not in the Turkish part. Of course, you can move to the Turkish part, to the northern Cypriot part, but there, it's a completely different legal system. It's not part of Europe. And the advantages like the low corporate tax, the non-dom status, and so on and so forth, only apply in the Republic of Cyprus. Just so you don't get confused, sometimes we even have the situation where someone spends part of their time in the north. So they have a residence there, maybe a secondary residence, but the official tax setup is in the Republic of Cyprus in the south. That's also possible. But it's absolutely crucial that you have a residence in the Republic of Cyprus. This can be a rental property. You can rent an apartment, for example, in Larnaka, for as little as 600, 700 or 800 euros. In Larnaka, for instance, you can get a two-room apartment for 600, 700 or 800 euros per month. So, in my opinion, that's actually quite affordable. And that's basically the minimum requirement. If you want to keep things very, very simple and cost efficient, you can rent a small apartment in Larnaka. We're also very happy to help with that. The alternative is to buy property. So, of course, owning property is also an option. But usually in the first year, people don't buy right away. They typically rent first. So you can also just have a 12-month rental agreement to start with. Once you have that, we can schedule an appointment for immigration, for your residence registration. Here in Larnaka, it's all done officially so that you can get your permanent residence permit for Cyprus. This process is actually quite straightforward for EU citizens. You will need several documents. Besides the rental agreement, you'll need health insurance, bank statements, proof of previous employment, such as pay slips or commercial register extracts, and a few other things. And we are more than happy to help you prepare these documents, making sure that they are properly translated, and then we will schedule an appointment with the immigration office for you, for example, 2 or 4 weeks in advance. You can also plan it further in advance if you wish. We have pre-arranged appointments for this purpose. This means you won't have to deal with the usual waiting times, which can be quite significant. Sometimes the wait can be 2 to 3 months, but instead we can always find an appointment together with you that fits perfectly into your schedule and setup. At the appointment, you will be accompanied by my colleague Kostas, who has been working with us here at CMC for several years and specializes in immigration matters. Of course, he also knows the caseworkers at the authorities very, very well. We enjoy a great deal of trust. And that's obviously a positive thing for the client because the appointment is a bit more relaxed, more routine, and the whole process is a bit faster. The process is less bureaucratic than if you tried to handle it yourself or hired someone who might not have much experience with this topic. At the appointment, which lasts about half an hour to an hour, you will also receive your permanent residence permit directly, the so-called yellow slip. It's a yellow piece of paper, a yellow A4 sheet, and with this document, you are then officially a resident of the Republic of Cyprus. So it's a very, very important and central document that you shouldn't overlook. Once you have it, you can officially conduct business, you can establish a company in Cyprus, and you can also be employed as a managing director or director in this company. That's also very, very important. But I'll get to that in a moment. First, I want to say something about the non-domicile status, the non-dom status, because this status is very, very special and truly unique. It means If you don't already know this important fact yet, please allow me to explain it in more detail. It means that as a non-Cypriot individual, you are completely tax exempt for a significant period of 17 full years on all capital income, especially profit distributions, but also including all interest income that you may receive. So you are exempt from the so-called defense contribution, which is essentially the capital gains tax, a very central tax that you then do not have to pay. You get this in black and white from the Ministry of Finance. We have already had the privilege of assisting with many hundreds of cases and have a 100% success rate. So you can really rely on this 100% as long as you meet the minimum requirements. The minimum requirements are to spend at least 60 days a year in Cyprus and not more than 183 days anywhere else. Then you need to have an economic connection to Cyprus. This is usually a rental property, a 12-month lease, or a property that you own. And the third point is the economic connection. This means that you have a company in Cyprus where you are employed yourself. At least that's the usual way. Of course, there are always, and I have to mention this here, there are always alternatives. Sure, the devil is in the details. That's why nothing beats a personal individual consultation. And of course, you have the opportunity to have a free initial meeting with me. You can choose an appointment below the video, and then we can discuss your specific situation. Completely without obligation, completely free of charge, and I can share my 14 years of experience in Cyprus with you. And as I said, all day long we do nothing but set up tax structures here in Cyprus to support them. This doesn't just involve the onboarding at the beginning, which is of course the starting point, but above all it includes ongoing bookkeeping, annual financial statements, as well as payroll accounting, VAT filings, secretarial tasks, and legal support. We have a law firm here in-house and actually cover all topics from A to Z, and of course we're always happy when we help potential clients further. But even if you're not a client, it's still great if we can support you, maybe give you a few tips along the way. So please feel free to take advantage of this opportunity to address your personal, individual situation in more detail. So, back again to the non-dom status. These 3 points are extremely important, and if you meet these points, then you will also achieve non-dom status. Of course, we need some proof, we need documents for the authorities. We have checklists that you can use so you can be on the safe side and know exactly what matters here. And as I said, the great thing about non-dom status, what I personally like so much about it, is that you have planning security. You know, for 17 years, you basically don't have to worry about your tax setup anymore because you're tax-free on dividend distributions. You're also tax-free on interest, of course, so dividend distributions and interest. And you are also, and many people don't know this or confuse it, but it actually has nothing to do with non-dom status. It's a general Cypriot phenomenon, a Cypriot tax advantage. You are also tax-free on the sale of securities. That's also extremely, extremely important. So, for example, if you sell stocks or options, that's also tax-free in Cyprus. This is also independent of non-dom status. That means even beyond that, you have the opportunity to benefit from this tax regulation. So it's really quite fascinating if you were to actually calculate what your total tax burden is in Germany or in Austria or even in Switzerland, and then meticulously compare that to the situation in Cyprus. It's truly quite remarkable, not to mention the significantly enhanced lifestyle, to say absolutely nothing of that whatsoever. Of course, you have tremendous security in Cyprus. You have the advantage that almost everyone speaks English. You can really get by very, very well with English. Naturally, you also have Mediterranean cuisine, the Mediterranean lifestyle, and a fantastic climate. So Cyprus is truly very, very attractive and really makes it easy for someone to move here, in my opinion. And it's only 3 or 3.5 hours by plane from Germany or Austria. So it's really not a big deal at all. Let me just say, if you already work online, maybe you're in IT or an online marketer or a content creator or in a similar field, and we also have a lot of people in e-commerce in these segments, then Cyprus makes a lot of sense. And it's relatively easy to become a tax resident here and benefit from these massive non-dom advantages. So, and the last important point is the Cyprus Limited. Of course, you want to have a company that you can work with. You want to have a vehicle to limit your liability, of course, to issue invoices. And naturally, the limited is the regular and rightly so very popular way in Cyprus. There are over 200,000 companies in Cyprus. That's quite a lot. And it also shows how popular this location is and that it's certainly no coincidence that so many entrepreneurs to come here to Cyprus. That really is a very impressive number, in my opinion. And what do you need? How do you get your own limited? What is especially important in this regard? I'd like to explain that to you briefly and concisely in this video. First of all, of course, we need the compliance documents. This includes the CV, the passport, a copy of the passport, a utility bill as proof of address, and a reference letter from a tax advisor or lawyer. Simply to check whether the client is in order and that everything is legally sound. These are legal requirements that you will find in almost every country in the world, of course. That's the compliance aspect. This is usually just a formality and can then be checked off accordingly. The second point is the company name. We should definitely check the company name in good time. This is extremely important because the commercial register is very particular about this. We often experience name rejections. The register says, sorry, but this name cannot be registered in this form. Then we need alternatives, and of course, that takes time. That's why it's always important to check the company name early, so you don't experience any delays. Then the third point is the drafting of the Articles of Association. This is the so-called Memorandum and the Articles of Association. So these are the company's articles which are tailored to your specific business case. It only takes a few working days, and then you, as the shareholder of your limited, can sign these articles. Of course, we will determine the final structure. Who will be the managing director? Who will be the secretary? What will the shareholder structure look like? Do we need a holding model? Does that make sense, or do we perhaps not need it at all? These are all questions, of course, that you discuss together with the client and then calmly decide how the final structure should actually look. Once everything has been prepared, we submit everything to the Nicosia Commercial Register, and within 2 to 3 weeks, the company will be registered, and then you can almost start operating with the company. Then we still need the tax number, the VAT number, that is the VAT ID number, the business account, of course, and registration with Social Security. So there are many formalities that still need to be taken care of afterwards. That also takes a few weeks. It depends a bit on the season, and there are many factors that play a role. But I would definitely allow for 2, 3, or even 4 weeks to plan for these things, so that under normal circumstances, you can actually start accounting with your company after 4 to 6 weeks. So you can not only sign contracts, but also do billing, issue invoices to your clients, and operate with the company. It's always very important to get the timing right, to coordinate the necessary steps with each other, and to consider what we should do first. Do we want to establish the company first? Do we want to then handle immigration afterwards, or do we run these processes in parallel? Are there any exit tax issues in the country of origin that absolutely need to be considered? What about reporting obligations for foreign holdings, and so on and so forth? So there are a whole lot of issues involved here that are extremely important for the timing. And that's why, once again, it's so important to look at your individual personal situation. So to sum it up, at the end of the day, you need residence and immigration. These are absolutely essential. You need the yellow slip here in Cyprus. In most cases, of course, specifically whenever you have companies and benefit from profit distributions or receive interest income, you definitely want the non-dom status. That means you need to make sure that everything is in order and that you meet all the requirements for this status. Extremely important. And then, of course, you want the Cyprus. Limited with the 12.5% corporate tax rate, and in some cases even just 2.5% corporate tax in the IP box, which is especially exciting for software companies and other intellectual property. This comprehensive overview provides you with everything that's truly needed, and of course my dedicated team and I are very happy to fully assist you with all of these important topics. That means, as I said, you can simply choose an appointment. You'll find a link below this video. There, you can sign up for a free initial consultation. This will then take place via Zoom. But of course, you're also very welcome to drop by and visit us in Larnaka at any time. And then we can simply go through all of your important questions face to face and make absolutely sure your setup is truly 100% correct and perfectly optimized, so you can work with the exact same setup for many, many years to come. I always find it extremely important not to have to redo your setup every 2 or 3 years because of some mistakes, but rather to plan everything properly from the start with a certain amount of foresight and planning so that you benefit from stability and can use the same setup for many, many years. And Cyprus is also very, very stable in that regard. That's something that should be mentioned as well. It's a pleasantly stable location. We don't have these constant legal changes when it comes to tax laws. On the contrary, Cyprus knows, the lawmakers know, that people and entrepreneurs come to the island because of the stability and the tax advantages. And that's something Cyprus has stood for many, many years now. And in the future as well, in my opinion, I'm absolutely convinced of this, it will remain an attractive and very stable one. It will continue to be a prime location. So I hope I was able to give you a good overview, and I'm already looking forward to our personal conversation. Thank you so much. I wish you a pleasant time and see you very, very soon. Feel free to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and don't hesitate to ask questions in the comments. I'm always very happy to respond to them. Many thanks and see you soon.